it's out. It's finally out. StateAdapt 1.0. That means it's stable enough and you should be able to use it and not regret it, because I don't have any plans to change anything major, but going forward, there will be some changes eventually. First thing I'm going to think of is how to use signals in StateAdapt. First, for now, they just seem like convenience ways of subscribing in components that you can combine with component inputs, and eventually maybe enabling more fine-grained reactivity in Angular. But maybe they're different from solid.js signals, and maybe the ArcsJS conversion between signals and ArcsJS could be more powerful than it looks like it currently is going to be. And maybe it's possible to reuse them in state adapters. So in the long run, things could change a lot, but it's going to take several months and probably multiple versions of Angular to really see if that happens. And if they're good enough, I hope Angular splits signals off into their own library, and I want to get rid of StateAdapt selectors. But that is, at least a year or two in the future, and hopefully it gets there, because the signals are fine-tuned for performance, and StateAdapt signals are good, but our StateAdapt selectors are good. They have a similar mechanism where they don't react to selectors that weren't evaluated when they were when the expression was evaluated. But they don't refresh dependencies right now every execution. So that's one area where Angular signals are more performant. Still, these should be more performant than regular selectors by a bit. So, and they are. I did a test, and they're slightly more performant. In one test, but I haven't focused on performance. But anyway, so it's stable. But yeah, signals, that is a source of change in the future, but it'll be very gradual and very, not a big deal. It's going to be incremental. So another thing that I want to work on is syncs. And I have, in videos where I've converted some things to StateAdapt, I have created wrapper components for some imperative APIs. And it's good in a lot of situations, but a couple of them are a little bit awkward. And I would like to look into a way to declare certain side effects in as part of stores, basically. And so it won't change the syntax. It will possibly be an extra array element. And so you would define like a syncs array above it. And then, so basically you wouldn't have to refactor anything today. It would just be extra stuff you can do. But this isn't super high priority. It's just something that is on my mind and will eventually probably get support in StateAdapt. Another thing I want to add, it's crazy. I saw, what the ELF video I did, or I did a couple, but one where I thought it was cool how you could import a with entities function, and it was more pure than adapters. Like, it's more simple. It's more tree shakeable, I think. And I was thinking about that, and I realized, you know what? I actually already have basically that ability in StateAdapt. With build adapter and join adapters, you can pass in extra reactions. And so, yeah, I might have to tweak it a little bit, but I already basically have the ability to enhance adapters, and you could export these things. So why not? Defining new selectors and reactions, those have to be separate, but I might take that function notation for defining new reactions and also allow defining new selectors as part of that, so that you can just import a single function. But it's not a big deal. You still have state adapters, and those are reusable state. So state logic. So that is going to be a slight benefit eventually, but yeah, it's not a pressing need. Yeah, let's see, what else do I have? Oh yeah, I've been mentioning it occasionally in videos here and there and in tweets and articles, but Cycle.js is 100% reactive, and nothing in Angular is right now. And type safety is one of the things that's in the way of that. And yet, I wonder if there's a way to, maybe that's not type safe, but I'm wondering if full reactivity might be worth the extra requirement of declaring the type of the source that you're listening to. So basically, instead of event handlers that are calling .next or set on stores, or my rule of thumb is only make one change somewhere and then that's it, and then you can be reactive after that. But what if you just didn't make changes anywhere? Like nothing was imperatively setting anything, but the store was completely, like each store is completely self-determined. And so, and everything is 100% reactivity. So actions, so sources are all completely self-determining. Nothing is calling .next on anything. I have enjoyed reactivity at every other level of state management, so I think I might like this. So I'm going to think about this. I want to maybe provide a directive in Angular that lets you define context to go with an event source. And so you maybe have a function called getSource or something, and it uses a query selector. It's not going to use the Angular thing, like the viewChild, because unfortunately that unfortunately that doesn't work in services. So that's not okay. I need to be able to define sources that can listen to state, like events from anywhere, and do it declaratively. So I'm gonna maybe I think there's like a listener that I could hook into for detecting when the DOM has been updated, and I can chain off of that. And if it's been updated, I check if the source is there or if it's gone, and basically set up an event listener with from event. Or maybe there's a way with Angular to get a component, but I don't think this is necessary. A component could abstract away, like could conceal, encapsulate some functionality where it has its DOM nodes, but like outside of the component you don't care. You just expose it as an output that's an observable. And then you can grab the component class from the DOM element that component class is corresponds with and corresponds to. And so that's convenient. You could access that observable directly if you could get that component instance. But I don't think it's necessary. I think maybe you could just you could just have a selector and get the event source. I don't know. This is just something I'm thinking about, but basically you'd have a store that has an adapter and then a reaction function name, and you'd refer to a source, but you'd create the source maybe inline. Or you could create it anywhere, but so you could call it increment click. And so it'd be increment in the store, increment : increment click, and then you define increment click as get source increment button. You'd use the DOM ID, and then click, and then you give it a type, which with the directive you could provide context for the event, but you'd have access to the event too. Anyway, so I'm thinking through this. I think it'd be great to try it out and see how full reactivity feels in Angular. And if it feels good, then make it a thing, and then try it in Svelte and React and stuff. So that would be great. Okay, and that's basically it. That's on my mind. That's what I'm thinking about, and how StateAdapt might change in the future. But as far as my YouTube videos, I'm kind of feeling like I want to take a break from StateAdapt conversion projects. I tested the library out like crazy. I didn't expect, a ton of people to just suddenly be like, oh, StateAdapt 1.0. Like, 1.0 isn't a big deal for me. I just don't want it to prevent people from trying it who would have tried it otherwise. I think a couple people have tried it who didn't before. So that's good. But yeah, I feel like it's in a good place and it's there, and occasionally I'll keep, pushing it. I want people to use it so bad, but yeah. For now, I'm going to focus on spreading ideas I have, because I think so many people are confused about reactivity. I need to get that article out. I'm uncertain about a couple of things. Syntax versus code organization. So people are confusing those things, and I haven't thought it through completely. It turns out whether something's imperative or declarative is actually not clear cut like I thought it was. But anyway, so there's so much I want to do. I want to create better dev tools. I'm interested in visual programming, because I think reactivity could be helped with visual programming, because you can see connections between things. And so code is both organized by what it's controlling and what is triggering it, because you can see the connection between them. So in both places, you can see how the data is flowing and what's being controlled by what. So that's a benefit of visual programming, but that would take a massive amount of work, and I don't know how to create VS Code extensions. And I'm thinking about XState. Oh yeah, state machines. That's another thing I'm gonna look a lot more into soon. I think it's probably not going to be very difficult. It's all it is giving states a name, basically status or something, and then restricting what can move to what. That's all it is. State machines are just restrictions. That's all they are. Restrictions with labels. So that's actually a little boring, but it might appeal to some people. But one thing I was thinking about is XState didn't, in previous versions, apparently they didn't allow disabling buttons for state changes that aren't allowed. Because if you think about it, that's like data going the other way. So what do you do with that? It's like not unidirectional anymore, because the button has knowledge about what downstream state changes are possible. And so you're getting like feedback from above about that. But then I realized, you know what? This is just a thought. I have no idea if this is actually possible. If I create sources and do full reactivity, and I do get source, I could theoretically in stores have a special treatment for reactions that are registered. So if I have a source that would cause an increment state change, but that increment state change is not allowed in the current state, I could set some property on that source, but since that source is referring to the button directly, that is a way that information could propagate back the other direction. I don't know. That's just a thought, but maybe, I don't know, people, maybe that'd be a cool thing. Yeah, but mostly I just have a lot of articles that, I've been trying to get StateAdapt 1.0 out for so long and getting it ready, that there are a lot of ideas in my head that I just need to express and make videos for and write about. And so I think I'll be focusing on that for a bit. So the videos won't be as frequent, but they should be probably higher quality. But signals are a big deal. I'm going to be exploring signals a lot more. Angular and Qwik, actually. I'm going back to Qwik because I finally saw that they put derived signals in Qwik. This is what I've been waiting for months, and Manu said it was an effort that took months to do. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to looking at that, because I don't know, Qwik to me, that was the main drawback, really. it has amazing powers as a framework, but it feels like you could shoot yourself in the foot with syntactic dead ends by realizing, oh, this thing needs to be reactive, but it's not this. And I don't know, just solid.js is nice because everything is just a function and you call it and that reads the value. And so it doesn't matter ahead of time how it's going to be used. You just define the thing on its own, and then downstream anybody can use it however they want. And RxJS is kind of like that too. Yeah, basically. And so I was sad about Qwik stores and signals, that they weren't like that, and that I don't know. I have a lot to learn and test, and the PR is still open, so it's not ready yet. But as soon as it's merged, and as soon as this Angular signals PR with RxJS compatibility is merged, I'm going to dive into both. And I commented on it, and they might be changing the Angular signal RxJS compatibility library, or not PR, whatever. Because, and I'm sorry if you didn't want this, but the async pipe in Angular has always, it's converting from an observable to state. But the problem is observables have no information about when they're emitting. And so you need some initial value. And so that's why with the async pipe, the output always was typed as null or whatever the observable was for. And I actually thought this was a good thing. It prevents you from accidentally expecting something to emit immediately when it could change, because the observable itself has no information about when it's going to emit. Even if you know right now when you're first developing it, you could just add an async operator and it would break it. So they were going to have it throw an error if the observable didn't emit immediately and you didn't provide a default value. I think it'd be nice if the type was the same as with the async pipe, but you also could have a default value. That would get rid of the concern, I think, 99% of the time with the types. And you'd still have type safety. So Pavel is going to look at that. And, well, he suggested to Alex that they look at that some more. You can look at the thread on GitHub if you're interested. But so they were going to do it that way. And I said, this might, because they're going to throw runtime errors. And if you change an observable, it might be hard to track down where you may never see it. And it may just happen in prod or something, unless you have tests that cover everything. So, sorry if you wanted the type to never be null, but I think that type safety is better. And they may still go with the runtime error thing. I hope they don't, personally. But I prefer the type safety. Anyway, so that PR is going to take a bit longer to figure out. And the Qwik one, I don't know when it's merging. I should find it and subscribe to it. It may already be merged, but so what I have coming up next is going to be something about folder structure. And I've done some videos in the past about that, but nothing really serious. But I really, really am tired of seeing terrible folder structures. Why do people make life so hard for themselves with these things? Well, ultimately, the folder structure is the wrong way to organize code. That's the problem. And that doesn't mean that all solutions are equally bad. Some are less bad than others. And so the article is about making something that's not as bad as other things. And that is a relatively flat folder structure that's organized by type instead of by technology. But anyway, so that's coming next. And I have four articles in total that I'm in the middle of writing. One of them is about Redux and unidirectionality. That Redux isn't really unidirectional, if unidirectional has any meaning at all. Another is about reactivity and like 10 to 12 misconceptions that people have that I've seen, including from myself. And then there was another one I don't remember, but Anyway, so that's what's going on. And yeah, that's it. So subscribe. Okay, bye.